Hey guys, Welsknight here, and welcome to a brand new Let's Build. Haven't done one of these in a long time. I tend to do these when I'm about to be going away on a trip and I need to record a whole bunch of videos in a short amount of time, and that's exactly what's going on. This is going to be a little filler series until after I'm back from Mine Fair, which I'm going to this weekend. But what I want to do in this Let's Build is I would like to build a lunar base, kind of a science fiction-y, futuristic base on the moon, something along those lines. I've been watching a lot of Star Wars stuff lately, and I'm feeling very kind of I'm very much in a sci-fi mood. So that's the plan. We are in 1.12. I'm modded, so I have World Edit. The version of World Edit that's available is not perfect. It's actually the 1.11.2 version, so some of the commands don't work. Like, if I want to go set grass, it gives me this error. So I can't use the set command and some of that kind of stuff, but I can do some of the other things. I have taken some time beforehand to customize all my brushes and get those the way that we want. And the first thing we need to do is make our terrain. We need some terrain because I'm in a super flat world right now that's just all light gray concrete powder. But that's pretty boring. So let's start by just kind of making like some hills and things like that. We'll just kind of do something like this. I want it to be relatively flat. I'm not looking for something that's super big. But basically what I have here is I have a sphere brush that puts down gray concrete powder like so. And then I've got a smooth brush as well to kind of smooth everything out. That's basically what I'm doing here. So we're going to make some kind of rolling hills and different things like that. And then I also have a brush that I made that's a sphere brush for air, which we're going to use to make some craters and things along those lines. So we're just going to try and kind of customize our terrain. If maybe we want like a crater over here, right? And then we kind of smooth this out and etc. Because the idea is that this is going to be the moon. Then lastly, I have this brush, which basically replaces the textures with everything it touches. It'll kind of vary the textures for us, and it'll speed up the process of adding some texture variation. And the mix we're going to use is basically like 90% light gray concrete powder, and then 5% light gray wool and 5% gravel. So it's just going to kind of help us get like something that's a little bit more interesting than just plain old, light gray concrete powder, which I think is kind of a perfect texture for the moon. But at the same time, you don't want to go too crazy with it and have lots and lots and lots of texture variation. You want it to be relatively straightforward, but you don't want it to be just light gray concrete powder either, because that will get boring pretty quickly. So we're going to make some craters. We're going to make some rolling hills and things along those lines. It's probably easier to do that from up here. We'll, continue to smooth things out a little bit as best we can. Just make this look a little bit more natural and interesting. I'm not going to do this entire area, obviously. I'm going to keep this pretty limited to an extent. I don't want to do this huge thing, but we do want to at least do the area around where the base and everything is going to be. Now, as for my plans for the base, I don't really have like a super detailed like block for block or even like a basic shape sort of idea. I just kind of have like a general concept in my head of what I want this to look like. And I think once it's all said and done, I think it'll be pretty cool. I'm feeling it's going to be very kind of modern. Think like modern house style to an extent. Like that's going to be a thing. Let's kind of spread this out. We don't want to have a lot of super straight lines. We want to kind of keep this sort of a little bit more flat. There we go. And then let's maybe do like a crater right here, right? Just we want to get some variation and different things in. Maybe this will be a bit of a bigger crater, right? And the interesting thing about concrete powder is that it does fall. So, that's something to kind of bear in mind as we're doing these textures. So let's maybe take a bit out around the edges of this. There we go. And we'll kind of, once again, you know, this is a bit of a larger crater than what we had previously. You guys can kind of see the process here, right? Like we're basically adding different amounts of hills and valleys and different things to just kind of add interest so that we're not building on like this completely flat area, right? Because that's no fun. We don't want to do that. And then I think, yeah, this is my texture variation one. So you can kind of see how we've got this all set up. I'm not going to link the commands or anything like that. There's plenty of world edit tutorials out there that you can look up if you want to learn how to do these things with world edit. And part of the reason I'm not going to do that is because, as I said, the 1.12 version of world edit is not entirely like, it doesn't really work all that well. There's some of the commands that are just straight up broken because this isn't the 1.12 version of world edit, it's the 1.11 version, and I'm using it in 1.12, which is really not ideal. If you know anything about modded Minecraft, that's generally something you want to avoid, is mix and matching versions. But I don't really have another option. So, and I definitely want world edit. Like, there's absolutely no doubt about that at all. Definitely want to have world edit. I kind of want a large hill, like right here in the center. And this is going to be where the main base area is going to go, I think. So we'll do something like that, kind of smooth it out. This is going to be the main area where we will put the actual base itself. It's going to be kind of up on like a hill right over here. And this should be pretty good size. Want to spread it out a bit more. I'm just using this sphere tool to kind of give us some terrain, right? We'll just kind of smooth. We should probably come up above so I can see it a little bit better. There we go. And we're just going to kind of smooth this out as best we can. It doesn't have to be perfect. Some of this we are going to have to come back and go in manually by hand and tweak and change things a little bit. But the big idea is we want to get the terrain situated before we get into building different structures and all that kind of stuff, right? You know, you need to build the area that we're going to be working on before you build the actual structure. For obvious reasons. It's a lot easier to do the area first and then the structure later than it is to do the structure followed by the area. And a lot of this will be subject to change. As I said, we are going to have to go back at some point, and we are going to have to kind of tweak little bits of this and change little kind of minuscule things to an extent. But the idea is if we can get a good base to work from here, if we can get kind of a good starting area, then we'll be in pretty good shape. Let's kind of add a little bit more terrain in there. Maybe a little along here as well. Just kind of spread that out. There we go. Spread that out as well. Yeah. All right. This is starting to look like an area that we can build something on, right? You got kind of this nice open area over here. So this is good. Now, we also want to kind of spread some other hills and stuff like that out. So let's say over here, this is going to be kind of a hilly area, right? We'll do something along this, and it's the moon. And I don't know if, I don't think there are like any mountain ranges on the moon or anything like that. So I don't want to go anything too crazy here. I want to keep it relatively simple. We're going to make kind of like a little sort of, not a mountain range, but sort of like a little bit of a valley here in between where the base will go. Ooh, right here, let's do that. There we go. And we're just adding in a fair amount of different terrain variation because we want to kind of just add some interest. That's what it really comes down to. Keep it from being super flat and super boring. That is the downside to starting in a creative super flat world, is that if you do so, you are essentially forcing yourself to build all the terrain yourself. You can't rely on generated Minecraft terrain, but I think that's okay. Now over here, I think this is a little bit too steep right here. So let's just kind of build that up a little. There we go. That seems a bit better. Yeah, that's much better. Okay. And then lastly, let's give ourselves some more hills and stuff like that along here. And then this will be kind of the area. This will define the area where we're working, I think. Just add a little bit more along here. There we go. Maybe one here, here, here. We should probably bring this over as well, just so we have kind of an outer border of everything. And that kind of defines our limits, right? Which is what we want. We want to have kind of clearly defined boundaries so we know we're not going to build anything beyond this point. And this gives us a pretty large area to work with. Like this is a lot of space, and that's good. That's good. That's what we want. Now, as for this series is going to be very short. Well, not very short. It's going to be about 5 or 6 episodes. This series is just going to be here to cover me until I'm back from Mine Fair. I am going to Mine Fair this weekend. I'm going to be leaving on Friday. I'll be back on Monday. And then Tuesday will be the first day where we have regular videos going out again, if all goes according to plan. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I've never been to a convention before, much less a Minecraft convention. So I'm very much looking forward to it. It looks like it's going to be a really good time. I'm going to be I'll be involved with it a little bit. I'll be doing like some meet and greet type stuff. But overall, it should be a lot of fun. And honestly, like, it's good. The downside, though, is that I'm going to be gone for several days, and that means I need to backlog videos so that you guys still have videos to watch while I'm gone, for obvious reasons. So now that I'm happy with the terrain, or at least mostly happy with the shape of the terrain, I think at this point, all we need to do is come in with this brush and just apply the texture variation to everything. We could potentially make this brush bigger, but I think it's good. I don't want to go too big. And we'll only have to really do this once. And I think this is a pretty good mixture for a moon. The idea is that this whole thing is taking place on the moon, which should be pretty cool. Let's just kind of get all of this stuff going in over. Oh, that needs to be smoothed a bit. That's a little too rough. Once this is all done, I will put a world download up for you guys if you want to come and look at it yourself. We need to start thinking, though, about like block palette and how we're going to like what we're going to make this thing look like, as far as what colors we're going to use, what blocks we're going to use, what the general shape is going to be, all of that kind of stuff. We need to do that. And honestly, I'm very excited to be in 1.12. So I definitely want to use the new concrete blocks, not just the concrete powder, but especially the regular concrete blocks. And I want to go for a very kind of modern feel with this whole thing. Very, very kind of modern architecture. Think like a modern house or something like that. That's kind of the style I'm going to go for, but it's going to be a bit more futuristic than that, rather than something you would see in like, the real world. We're going to go for something a bit more futuristic, very kind of science fiction-y. I think it should be a lot of fun and a very cool project. So I think this is pretty good. We should probably make a couple more craters. Just a few, right? So we'll do something like that, add our texture variation in there. Let's see, this area up here is where we're going to be making the base itself. So let's make like another crater over here. And we're just kind of spreading these out a little bit. And the goal, as I said, is to give it just a feel that it's not all, boring and flat. So if we come down here, this feels very moon-like to me. Like I'm quite happy with this. We can kind of fill in some of these different textures over here. Do a little bit of that, and then we'll just kind of add some of the texture variation in a couple places. The choice to use gray wool as a terrain block is something I haven't really done before, but just kind of looking at a color palette, I wanted a very kind of light gray feel. I think dark gray concrete powder, regular gray, was just too dark. So this was the one I came up with after quite a bit of experimentation. This is what I ultimately decided to go with. But this looks pretty good to me. I'm quite happy with this. So let's just kind of get in here and get rid of some of these things. We'll just clear all that out. There we go. And then up here, this is where we are going to do our actual base building. So I'm thinking white concrete. Well, we should probably come up with like a little bit of a block palette first, and I kind of have a general idea. So I'm thinking we'll go white concrete, right? And let's just make like a little mock-up. In fact, let's actually do that maybe over here, right? So we'll just make like a little bit of a mock-up. Like so. In fact, let's bury this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll make like a little 5x5 thing here. Something like that could be cool, right? And then maybe what we do is we actually bring the corners in like so. So instead of being perfectly straight over here, it's a little bit more rounded. Something like that. Nah, I don't like that. Let's go back to the nice and straight lines. I think we'll work some curves into it in different places. But I think we'll do something like that, and then maybe we go with the red concrete powder. And let's just kind of build up like a little thing up to here, maybe. As I said, this is going to be very modern. That's really the style I'm going for, and modern is not a style that I do often or that I do particularly well, in my opinion. So it's going to be interesting to see if we can kind of come up with something that breaks my fear of modern, so to speak. Maybe here is where this one will kind of come out. Or actually, let's raise that up a little bit. Bring that up to maybe here. And then this will kind of come up. And this is not going to be exactly what the base is going to look like. This isn't like a scale model or anything like that. I'm just going for the general style here. So maybe we do something like this, right? And then maybe we make another one of these. And we'll say that this whole thing is kind of modular. So we do something along those lines. Right? Let's get rid of that. There we go. And then up here, we'll say that'll kind of come over. This will come up. We'll bring it out one more. And then let's take a look at this and see what we think. That needs to come up as well. So for kind of a shape, that definitely feels science fiction-y to me. So this is good. That's what we're going for. We'll kind of put that here. We'll fill in these corners. And then I think we'll give these maybe a background block of some sort. Maybe like, maybe black would be the way to go. Is that going to be too much? Yeah, that's a little too dark in my opinion. What about something entirely different? What if we were to use like iron blocks? There we go. What if we were to use something like that as our background block? That's okay, but it blends a little too much with the white. I'm looking for something. And I'm looking for something interesting. Maybe gray. Maybe we go like dark gray. Yeah, that's not bad. Right? So we get something like that going. And then for our windows, I'm thinking we kind of keep this red theme. And basically we get our windows in like so. And I am just using the default vanilla textures here, by the way. I'm not using a texture pack. I am going to be using one for a sky, so you guys will be able to kind of get an idea. But that looks pretty good. I think we're actually going to kind of bring this up. Like so. To kind of give us that idea as far as how this will look. And as I said before, this is not what the base, this is not a model of the base so much as it is trying to get a feel for the general style of the lunar base, right? So we're not really going to go super detailed or anything like that. We're just basically trying to get a general feel. Just a general, like the immersion, the feeling that it gives, the feeling that it conveys is what we're trying to figure out here. So something like that could work. And we could maybe go, ooh, actually, how would that look if we took, ooh, I like that. I like that a lot. So we'll have like these kind of pillars here. That seems pretty cool. And then, like, for example, this could be our exit, right? So we have our door open like that. And then down here, behind, this would kind of go, how would we do this? Probably like that. Right? Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And then, you know, for some details and stuff, we could add in like some iron bars or whatever. We're taking inspiration from modern architecture, but at the same time, we are going for a science fiction sort of feel here. It's not just modern that we want to be dealing with. It's modern and science fiction. So something like this could be really cool. I'm liking this idea so far. I'm liking the concept and the way that this is kind of coming out. Right? Let's take a look at that. That does seem pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, something like this could work really well. I like it. Okay. So let's just kind of finish filling in a couple things on our, I guess we'll call it a floor model. We'll call it our floor model. Our little thing that we're using just for the purposes of kind of getting a general feel for the style. Maybe something like that. Nah, I don't like that. Let's just do straight up white right here. There we go. But that seems like a pretty cool plan. So now that we have an idea of our general style, now we can kind of come in here and start figuring out how this is going to go. And it's obviously going to be a lot bigger than that. So that will be our next step. But I think this is a good place to end off the first episode of the Let's Build, guys. I hope you're enjoying it so far. We got all the terrain figured out, and we got kind of a block palette, if you will, and a proof of concept laid down too. So, my friends, if you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Links in the description below, so check that out as well. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll definitely see you next time.